I wonder how you are with long words. You any good with long words? Crossroad. Are you good, Meg? I knew you'd think of that, especially that lot down there. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. You could. That's the one. Wait a minute, that's the one I was coming out with. Any other long words from our children? Megan, have you got any long words? Are you good at long words? No? You can say Megan. Animals, that's pretty good. That's very good. Anybody else with long words? What you got, Marcus? What? Oh, really? I don't even know that one. Nola? Very good. Well done, Nola. Fantastic. And Jenny's got the longest English word.
Anti-disestablishmentarianism.
Very good. There are some new ones that have come up that are scientific ones, but I'm told that's the longest English word. Chris?
I know the longest German word.
Ah.
Schwarzwälder.
Right. And what's that mean? Do you remember? Oh, I see. Right. I've actually got... Julian? That's the one I was going to come. There's a mile between the two S's, yeah, so it must be the longest word. Smiles, have you got it? Smiles, yeah. You'll get there in the end. And about halfway through, someone will laugh when they get that one. Okay, long words, I don't know. I find them quite confusing. Christine mentioned a German one. I gave up German, sorry Nola, but I gave up German when I discovered that they called a bus stop Straßenbahnhaltestelle. Because I thought any language that can call a bus stop that long a word, it must be impossible to do well in the exam. So I gave it up. I did Latin instead, at least for a little while. Then I had to do Greek at university and Hebrew, dear me. They don't even have the same letters. Long words can be difficult, can't they? So today, I've got a really, really short word for you. It's only 2 letters. We'll come to the short word in just a moment, but let me just remind you that you are worshipping today, and some of you live in the place with the shortest name in Britain. Did you know that? There are no 2-letter names in Britain. There are several 3-letter names. Rye is one of them, but we don't talk about them, do we? We are here in Orr. And Orr, having a capital 0 at the beginning of it, must therefore be the shortest place name in Britain. We are famous, brothers and sisters, so enjoy living in Orr village. But it's a 2-letter word that I want to bring to you today, and it's the letter so. Can you remember how we spell so? S-O. So, oh, very good, Megan. So, very, very good indeed. Very good. So impressive she is. Fantastic. Don't know where she gets it from. So, now to understand why this word is really so important, we need to read a little bit of our reading and understand it, okay? So this is from John's Gospel, chapter 13, verse 3. Jesus knew something. He was pretty clever, wasn't he, actually, Jesus? Jesus knew something, and he knew, it says, that the Father had put all things under his power. How much power has the Father got? All of it. All power, David, exactly. He's got the whole lot. He made everything, huge universe, everything there is. The Father, God the Father has got, and it tells us that he's given all that power to someone else. Who's the someone else? Jesus. So how much power has Jesus got?
All of it.
All of it. Fantastic. You're getting there. Very good logic here going on. He knows, it says, that Jesus knows he's got all power. He can do anything at all. And it says he knew that he had come from God and was going to God. In other words, he was completely human, but he was more than human. He was God come down, the Son of God, coming into our world, and later on he was going to go back up to be with God the Father forever. It says Jesus knew all of that, and you might expect it to say, so, remember our little word, so, he sat himself on a throne, with a big crown on his head, with lots of big robes and massive gold and silver, and he said, you've got to do that, and you've got to do that, and you do that, because I'm all-powerful, and I'm God, and I can do it. You might expect it to say that if you didn't know Jesus. You might expect someone who has that sort of power and authority to say, I'm going to take charge here. But he didn't. That's why this little word is so important. Jesus knew all that. Verse 4, so he got up from the meal. This was a meal he was having with his closest friends, at least the 12 disciples, maybe others as well. He got up from that meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. Now, you and I might not know what that means. Do you fancy me taking off my outer clothing? No, we won't do that. But because it doesn't mean the same to us as it did to them. For them, it was a clear sign that he was going to do a job. A job that they had done at every meal that they ever ate at, every special meal at least. Somebody came and washed their feet. But it was so normal that all the other meals that we get mentioned in the Gospels never talk about it. They never say, oh, the servant came along and washed their feet, because that's what always happened. And on this occasion, Jesus is the one who gets himself ready to do that. Even though he knows he's got all the power, he knows he's got all the authority, he knows who he is, he's going to be with God forever and ever, he puts on the clothes ready to wash their feet. And then he gets down, right down on his knees in front of them, and he starts washing their feet. Now, look, he's a bit fitter than I am, so he can get up easier. You might think, well, he's just doing a visual aid to tell us about servanthood. What I notice is that he didn't stop at one or two and say, I've washed them, you get the point now, don't you? He went right the way around all of them, at least 12, as I say. He washed every single set of feet. And it wasn't just a nice visual aid to make a point. It was actually because they needed their feet being washed. Some people who had some money would wear sandals. Maybe Jesus wore sandals. It certainly mentions them on at least one occasion. But many people went without anything on their feet because they just couldn't afford the Clarks or Hush Puppies or whatever, that most of us can have. And that meant that they were very dusty, their feet, because the roads were made of dust and not tarmac like ours. But they didn't have any sewage system. I hope you got your breakfast well down before I start this bit, because that's the reality. Certainly animals and maybe people just let rip, if I may put it that way. At any particular point, they fancied it. So when you were walking along the main roads, what were you walking through? Well, don't mention it. It's not nice in polite company, is it? But you and I know what they were walking through. So their feet would be even smellier than mine are after a hot walk like this afternoon. They would really stink. If you were then going to eat your dinner, quite apart from it being a very big health hazard, it actually smelled horrible. So instead of smelling your nice roast lamb or whatever it was you were going to eat or drink at that meal, all you could smell was next door neighbours' smelly feet that had unmentionables on them. So they definitely needed their feet being washed. And Jesus didn't have a second thought about it. Straight down on the ground, washing them, doing the whole job, doing a good job apparently. Some of them, particularly Peter, were a bit embarrassed about that. I don't want you to wash my feet. After all, you're the king. You're the one with the crown. You're the brilliant one. I should be washing your feet. And Jesus says, no, you've got to, I put it in my words, you've got to let me serve you, Peter. You've got to be humble enough to receive something from me, just as I am humble enough to give it to you. That's the theme of our service today. Serving one another. It's no good saying, I'm serving the Lord, I wanted to do everything he says, if we're not prepared to serve one another. This is part of a series. We're going to be looking at all the practicalities of loving one another over these next few weeks. Next week, we're going to look at humility. The week after that, how to forgive other people. And loads of other practical things to help us see how you and I can love one another. Today, serving one another. It seems to me that Queen Elizabeth II is actually a very good example of that. She has amazing power, fantastic resources, extraordinary at what she could do and what she could demand of us. And to be honest, if you've looked at history, you'll know that some kings and queens in the past did exactly that, didn't they? They got what they wanted for themselves. They want a, mistress or a, gold crown or they just took it. Thank the Lord, Queen Elizabeth II seems to me to be a very, very different sort of person who uses the extraordinary influence that she has, the great power she has, for the good of other people. And she has done that, as far as I know, consistently for 60 years. I think that's remarkable. Doesn't matter what you think about whether we should have a king or queen, that example is amazing. But Jesus is even better. Because if you think the Queen has some crowns, you ain't seen nothing yet. If you think the Queen has authority and power and influence, well, Jesus tops her easily, and she would say that too, God bless her. Jesus had all of that, and he gave it up and went down on his hands and knees and washed all those feet. I'm going to need 4 people to help me just now. I wonder if anybody else would like to come up and serve us. David's right in the way for doing that. Right? David, you'd like to stay there, holding that letter there. Megan, are you going to come up and help? Because you're really good at this. Oh, here we are. Would you like to have an O? No, don't open it out yet. There we go. Megan, are you going to come? Can you stand here next to... I'm afraid your pink clashes with his red a bit, but that's all right. We don't mind. Anybody else? Last one? Last one? Nobody else? Oh, dear, I have to do it myself. Oh, no, Matthew's just beaten Tony to it. Sorry, Tony. Matthew, that's great. Here we go. Right, can you hold them up so that people can see the letter? Nothing else, David, at the moment. Otherwise, we'll get confused, right? Very good. Well, it could be evil. Do you think it's evil? No, it's love, isn't it? Jesus is saying to you and me, if you want to know what love is, it's about serving. And if you want to know what serving is, it's about these 4 letters, another fairly short word for you. All right? Now, David, now you can open your thing up and tell us what that says, learning. And what it means is, if you're going to serve people and love them, you need to learn what they need. It's no good going up to the old lady standing by the side of the road and grabbing her arm and taking her across the road and saying, there you are, dear, I took you across the road, when she was waiting there for someone to pick her up with the car. What you need to do is to go to her and say, Madam, would you like to go across the road? Can I help you in some way? You need to learn what that person needs. If it's someone who has learning difficulties or mental health issues or physical disabilities, you need to ask them, what can I do to help? What can you manage to do yourself? Not take over from them as if you had no respect for them. Learning all sorts of people what will actually help them. That's the first thing about love and serving. Second thing, Marcus, openness. Do you notice that Jesus at that meal didn't say, have we not got a servant to wash our feet today because I'm feeling rather tired? No, he didn't. He was completely open to the need. He could see that for whatever reason nobody had been washing the feet, so off he gets and does the job. Openness means you and me being the sort of person who's always ready to help. If the chairs need stacking, or the loos need cleaning, or the house needs painting, or the cake needs baking, or the person needs helping across the road, or whatever it is, we don't let our pride and our own self-importance stop us. We are open to serving. Thirdly, can you open your one out, Megan, for me? Doing a good job here. That's it. And hold it right up. Oh, that's so you can read it, but we need to read it. Turn it the other way around. That's it. Very good. It says, can I tell you what it says? It says vital, because there aren't many words beginning with V, so I did vital, because Jesus says this is the way it's got to be. Let me read the verses for you. When he'd finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place and said, do you understand what I've done? You call me teacher and Lord, and now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you should do the same to others. I've set you an example. You've got to do it. It's vital for Christians to be like this. We've got to have a commitment in our hearts to serve one another and to serve people beyond us. I was talking to a member yesterday, a member of our church, and she said she was down at the station plaza and she met a gentleman who'd just come back from holiday. And on holiday, people had come to him and complained to him about how our nation had treated the people who killed drummer Rigby. They complained about that and they beat him up. They beat him up very severely. He could hardly walk. He needed a stick. Quite a young man, but he was completely incapacitated by being beaten up for that reason. Then he comes home, and does he get help from lots of people? Not a bit of it. So far, he hasn't had any money to sustain him. He's in a difficult situation. And when my friend met him, she said, "What can I do to help?" He said, "I can't even reach up to the counter to get my medication. Could you do that for me?" And she said, "Yes. How are you going to get home to St. Leonard's?" she said. And he said, "I don't know. I'll probably have to hobble. It'll take me hours." Really, genuinely would take him hours. She said, "Here's £5. Let me take you to the taxi." That, you see, is service that is learning what he needs, open, because there are lots of other people around the station plaza and they did nothing. It's vital. And then lastly, Matthew, thank you so much, it's for everyone. And there's an interesting everyone in the story today who doesn't get named, but he gets referred to. Peter says, "Give me a bath, Lord. I don't just need my feet," because he gets a bit carried away, does Peter, doesn't he? And Jesus says, "A person who's had a bath only needs to wash his feet. You are clean, though not every one of you," for he knew who was going to betray him. Who was that? Judas. Was Judas present then? Did Jesus wash his feet? Did Jesus know that Judas was going to betray him? Think about that. Think about the temptation to do Peter and James and John and then miss out Judas and go on to Matthew and so on, because you knew that within a few hours Judas was going to betray you and you're going to end up on a cross. Then think of the humility and the servant heart of Jesus that says, "Even Judas, I am going to wash his feet." Everyone. And that means for you and me, if we're going to call Jesus Lord and say, "Yeah, I want to follow him," that means serving everyone, including the people we find difficult, the people who've hurt us, the people who've wronged us, the people who we don't understand. It's seeking to do what we can. Jesus, knowing he had all this power, knowing he could do everything, chose to use it to serve people. That is serving. That is humility, as we'll see next week. That is what you and I are called to. Learning, openness, vital, everyone, love. Let's pray. Jesus, thank you that although you knew full well who you were and how much power you had, you let that go and you served. Not just by washing some feet on that day, but you served by giving your life on a cross to forgive us. And trusting your Father that you'd be raised from the dead. Jesus, would you put that sort of heart in us that we may serve in your name? Amen. And with my friends up